Greetings, friends and fellow warriors. This is my contribution for the Million March Mask competition. I would like to share with you a method of making paper mache for the march in November. So, what I would like to do is let you know the first thing you want to do is have flour, about 2 cups of flour. You're going to need about 2 cups of water. You're going to need some school glue, white or clear will do. You're going to also want to have 1 ream of paper from a weekly newspaper, a mixing bowl with a whisk or other mixing instrument, another bowl that will have the strips of newspaper in it. You're also going to need a base for your mask making, some saran wrap or plastic wrap, tape, measuring spoons, and a dry measuring cup. Okay, now the first thing we need to do is with our mask base, we want to cover it with the plastic saran wrap because that way your mask will not stay stuck to your base. Once you do that, you want to grab your newspaper, cut it in half lengthwise. So this lengthwise, I would cut in half so that you now have your newspaper about so big. And then we're going to tear it in strips that are between 1 inch and 1/4 inch in width. We want to get a nice amount of newspaper torn up in strips so that we have a lot to work with. Because you want to have layers of newspaper on paper mache masks. So I've already done a lot of ripping of newspaper up into strips, and I've put it in this bowl. The next thing you're going to want to do is add some water to your newspaper, and you want to make sure that your newspaper's pieces and strips are pretty well separate from each other so that you have some standard thickness to work with. And we want to mix this up in the bowl with a little bit of water. Make sure that you don't have too much water because then you're not going to be able to get the strips. See how that got all mangled up? So I'm going to put that over here because that was a clump. Okay, and then we're going to set this aside so that it can soak a little bit. And meanwhile, we want to clear our space of any extras, and we're going to add our flour into the bowl. We want to add about 1.5 cups to 2 cups to start with. Now you might need to add more later, but don't worry about that until you get there. Then what we want to do is we want to slowly add the water and mix up your paste until it looks like a crepe or pancake mix, something like this. See how it just drips off of your spatula or whisk? You want to make sure to get all the clumps out and have a pretty consistent paste to work with. Then you're going to add some glue. Now I add about 2 tablespoons of glue. I have already added 2 tablespoons of glue to this paste. Whisk it up, make sure that it's all mixed together. And when you are done, when you believe that your paste looks pretty consistent, not all lumps, you can then begin using strips of newspaper and applying them to your base. Now, I like to start with a single strip of newspaper, not clump them up, but we are going to have like 5 or 7 layers of newspaper on your base because that's going to make your mask really strong. And so we apply the newspaper. I like to apply lengthwise first, but you can apply any way you want to. Just as long as you make sure that you got all the air bubbles out, and you want to have a smooth surface for your mask to be built on. Now I like to keep a rag around just to make sure that I don't have too much glue on my fingers. Paper mache making is a messy business, so you want to have your table covered if you don't want to deal with the big cleanup later. So there's my first layer all along the base of my mask. And I like to make sure that I don't have too much newspaper dangling on the sides. And you can just rip it right off of the back side of your mask. And just add your next layer going the opposite way. This will strengthen your mask and helps keep from having ripples in the mask. You want to make sure that you identify where your eyes are going to be and where your nose is going to be. And make sure the shape of your mask starts taking on the face that you want to make. Now, if you've got a whole bunch of paste on your mask now and you're concerned about it dripping off, just add a unpasted piece of newspaper on top and that will absorb the extra paste. Gotta look at my mask here for a minute. It's coming along. Alright, so now we see that the face is starting to take shape. Don't worry if you have some paper hanging down or on the sides, because you will be tucking that under later when your mask is more dry. When you come across a clump like this of newspaper, that's fine. You don't have to separate it. You can just use the whole clump. And this clump is pretty wet, and I have a lot of paste on the mask so far. So I will just, see, look, a lot of paste on the mask. So I'm going to just apply another layer of this newspaper to the mask base. I like to push all of the air bubbles out of my mask while I'm making it so that I don't have unevenness later. Now that I have these first few layers done on the mask, I want to add some contour so that I have features that show up. And in the anonymous mask, we have arching eyebrows and raised cheeks and a larger nose than that. That's pretty small for a nose. So what I do is I grab some of the bigger clumps of newspaper that I have here prepared. And for the nose, I want to make it pretty prominent on the front, on the tip of the nose, so I'm going to make it thicker. I'm going to add a little bit of paste after I've folded the newspaper some to create that thickness, because I don't want air bubbles in the mask. This mask is made of paper mache, not air. And it's okay when you put the nose on, if you see that it's not all connected, and it doesn't have to look like your finished product just yet. You're still shaping it. This type of shaping is similar to shaping with clay or Play-Doh, only it's a little bit stickier. And then after you put a clump on, you want to put a thin, flat layer of paper on top. This will keep everything in place and it won't look like a whole bunch of clumped up newspaper. You want to make sure that you're even on all sides of the face. I'm going to add some more to the nose because I want to make it really nice and predominant. It's protruded. That protruding nose. Now you don't want to spend too much time on any area because what happens is that your paper will start disintegrating in your hands and it'll start rolling off your mask, and you don't want that to happen. You're making a mask, not disintegrating a mask. So there, I got the nose. There's the first part of the nose. See? Cover up the bottom nostrils. Okay, now I don't want to mess anymore with the nose right now, but I can do some other contours here. I want to put raised eyebrows, kind of like an upside down V. And so I take a strip of paper and I fold it and then I roll it so that it's nice and rolled. And I want to have two of them so I take another paste paper, fold it in fours or so, and I'm going to roll it again. Make sure they're pretty consistent thickness and everything, because you're making eyebrows, and eyebrows match each other usually. So then I'm going to take this rolled up piece of newspaper and I'm going to bend it. One side is a little bit longer than the other in my model. You don't have to do that. You can do it any way you want. It is up to your preference. Let's see, now I got two eyebrows that match. And then I take my eyebrow, I dip it, and I don't take any of the paste off. I dip it in the paste and I leave that paste on there. And I want to put it above my eye. And I'm going to do that with the other one now, so that we have our two arched eyebrows. So it looks like that. Make sure you got them evenly spaced above the bridge of the nose. now I'm going to take another wet piece of newspaper, and like with this strip, flat and straight, I want to cover the eyebrow. Okay? So I'm going to cover the eyebrow. I want to make sure that none of the clumped up edges of that paper are showing. Okay? And then I'm going to take another piece for the other eyebrow. Go the opposite way. There we go. See? Like that. And I gotta double check my work. Try to get all of the air pockets out. Now, if you are not good with checking your evenness with just your eyes by eyesight, you can use a little tape measure. One from your sewing machine, sewing kit will work. But that's about what those eyebrows look like. I'll probably build them up a little bit more when the paper is drier. With paper mache masks or any paper mache that you do create, remember, it takes time, because when you are putting layers on, you're also adding water, and the water then starts causing your paper to fall apart if you aren't careful. And so, that's why we make these things in stages. The next part of the anonymous mask that I'm going to focus on is the raised cheeks. And so I take some more thin strips of paper, probably 2 to start with, and I'm going to fold them in half. I'm going to fold them in half, and then I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the eyebrows. I'm going to roll them up. This is just a very preliminary measure to making the cheeks. Now I'm going to take another couple pieces of paper for the other side and do the same. Your main goal here is to make them both about the same width and the same length. So there are 2 pieces that I can now dip. This time I'm taking a little bit of the paste off because we got a lot of paste on there already. We want to have it start from right at the about a ½ an inch below the right side, right nostril. And then we're going to go up in a curve. And I have extra newspaper here. I have this extra clump here because the cheek gets larger. And so I fold it on itself, like so, to follow with the cheek. Okay? Then I'm going to take a piece of newspaper, a thicker piece, because we're on a flatter part of the face, and I'm just going to cover what I just put down for the cheek. Okay? I'm going to cover it up, make sure that all the air pockets are out. There's one cheek. That's just the beginning. Got to make sure that I'm balancing these cheeks so that they both look the same. Again, a 1/4 inch below the left nostril this time. And curve it up towards the far corner of your eye. So it looks like that. And then I'm going to take and cover it again with a thick piece of or a wide piece of newspaper, not a thick piece. Like that. That'll work. Now, the final contour that I want to add to this mask is going to be the lower lip of our anonymous mask. And I will do the same thing I have done for the cheeks and the nose and the eyebrows. I'm going to get some newspaper that's pretty damp, and it's fine if it's clumped together at this point. And we're going to roll it up, kind of. Want to add some more. The smile of this mask is created to look pretty predominant in the face. I don't think that I'm going to worry about that. So, take this. There we go. Now we got make sure that it's pretty even throughout. And we're going to dip it in here. It's pretty gooey. I'm going to put it on and press it on like so. You might have to tear some off to balance it out, even it. You want to make sure that it's not too far on the sides of your mask. You want to have it centered and pronounced. So that it looks like that. Now we're going to put some more newspaper on to cover it up. Make sure that we got it all even, centered. Again, if you cannot do this by eye, that's fine. You can use your tape measure and you will do an excellent job. I'm sure of it. Now I'm going to cover up the lower lip here with some of this wet newspaper. Don't really need to add any more paste. We got plenty of paste from the filler that I put in there to make the lower lip. Now, I want to go and do another layer or two of paper mache all over the mask so that everything has an even feel to it. You don't want to make any holes in your mask for eyes, nose, and mouth until after it has dried. That way, you keep the integrity of your mask together. Keep on checking for those air pockets. We don't want air pockets in there. Now at this point, my mask is getting really, really wet and I don't want it to fall apart. The best thing to do is to take a break. So far we have got about 4 layers on our mask and we have created contours and everything that is required for the base of our anonymous mask. When your mask has dried, which takes about a week or maybe a few days depending on whether you have it next to a heater or a fire, you can also use the hair dryer. That would work as well. The next thing you want to do is you want to take your mask off, which I can't do with this one because it's wet. And I'm going to show you with the one that I've already made. See, I made this mask last week. And my final piece of the mask was to fold over the hanging pieces of newspaper while it was kind of wet, still damp. And I made sure that my mask fits my face. You want to do this before your mask is too dry because you can still bend it. Finally, my final layer was white paper. I used white sketch paper, but you can use any white paper. And I just took strips and I dipped them in my mixture, my paste mixture, and I covered the mask, both the front of my mask and the back of my mask, in white paper. It's also advisable for you to spray your mask with some bleach water before you paint it, just to ensure that you don't get any mold on your mask. When your mask is fully dry, you will paint it. and I will share a painted mask with you momentarily.